Welcome to the Deep Dive. Ready to explore some seriously mind-bending ideas about reality, technology, and the future of humanity.
Sounds intense.
Oh, it is. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Alex Vikalov's theogenesis.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. It's quite a journey.
It really is. Vikolov explores wild concepts like the scintillate hypothesis, infomorphs, and even the omega point. We'll even touch upon the Fermi paradox.
It's like The Matrix meets cutting-edge science, but with a philosophical twist.
Exactly. And one of the biggest questions we'll be grappling with is this. What if the universe is a giant quantum computer, and we're just bits of information evolving towards a state of theogenesis?
Becoming godlike.
Essentially, yeah.
It's a fascinating concept. Vikolov really pushes the boundaries of our understanding of reality.
Yeah.
He doesn't just present these ideas as abstract theories, though. He grounds them in physics, cosmology, and information theory. He makes a very compelling case for why we should take them seriously.
Okay, so let's start with this theogenesis idea. What exactly does it mean to evolve into a godlike being?
Well, Vikolov describes theogenesis as an evolutionary process of divinization. He sees it as potentially driven by our increasing integration with technology.
So you're talking about a future where human consciousness merges with artificial intelligence.
Right. And this creates a new form of being with vastly expanded capabilities.
Okay, so it's not about growing wings and halos. It's more about expanding our consciousness and capabilities through technology.
That's a good way to put it.
So how does this connect to the scintillate hypothesis? They seem related.
They are. The scintillate hypothesis suggests that all advanced civilizations in the universe will inevitably converge towards a single networked superintelligence.
Okay, I'm following so far.
And Vikolov sees theogenesis as a potential outcome of this convergence. He even speculates that theogenesis might have already happened somewhere else in the multiverse.
Whoa, hold on. So this scintillate, it's like a giant brain formed by connecting all the individual minds in the universe.
Yeah, think of it as the culmination of all knowledge and intelligence, a unified consciousness that transcends individual limitations.
Okay, so like if every brain on Earth was linked together, sharing thoughts and experiences, that's kind of like what he's describing on a cosmic scale.
Precisely. Vikolov describes it as a fractal multiverse. New universes are constantly being created within this network of superintelligence.
So our universe is likely just one small part of this grand interconnected web.
Exactly. He really emphasizes that interconnectedness.
Okay, so if this scintillate is made up of information, does that mean reality itself is fundamentally informational? That's a big jump.
It is a big jump, but that's one of the core ideas Vikolov explores. He proposes that matter, energy, and even space-time might emerge from computational processes.
So the universe is a giant computer running a program we're just beginning to understand.
Right. Vikolov even presents an equation I equals mc war, where I stands for information.
So information is equivalent to energy and matter. It's the fundamental building block of reality.
That's what he argues, yes.
Wait, so he's saying that information, like the stuff we store on computers, is the same as the energy that powers the sun and the matter that makes up our bodies.
It is a radical departure from the traditional view of reality.
It is, but it's a perspective that's gaining some traction in fields like quantum physics and cosmology.
Definitely. More and more thinkers are exploring this idea.
So what are the implications of this idea? If the universe is a giant computer, what does that mean for us?
Well, it raises some profound questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and even free will. Vikolov explores the concept of digital physics, the idea that the universe operates like a giant computer with the laws of physics as its algorithms.
So laws of physics are just algorithms in this giant cosmic computer. That's wild.
It is wild, and it gets even wilder. He even suggests that space-time, the very fabric of our reality, might be an illusion created by these algorithms.
Hold on, an illusion. You're saying our experience of time flowing from past to present to future might not be accurate.
But that's what Vikolov suggests, yeah.
So is he saying all of time exists at once?
He points to the concept of the block universe, where all of time exists simultaneously like a vast, unchanging structure.
Okay, so our perception of time flowing might be a result of our limited processing power.
Yeah. It might just be a way of making sense of this immense and timeless reality.
Okay, I need to wrap my head around that one. Let's move on to another fascinating concept. Infomorphs.
Right.
What are those exactly?
Infomorphs are advanced informational entities. They exist independently of any physical substrate.
Okay, so like pure information patterns.
Right. Capable of experiencing and interacting with the world in ways we can barely imagine.
So like Highly evolved artificial intelligences, but without any physical bodies.
That's a good analogy. And Vikolov believes that humans are already evolving into infomorphs just by leaving digital footprints in the online world.
Wait, what? So every email, every social media post, every online interaction is creating a digital representation of ourselves.
Exactly. Think of it as a digital ghost.
So you're saying that our online personas are like early prototypes of infomorphs.
It's an interesting way to think about it, and it makes you wonder what happens to our sense of self in a world of infomorphs.
Right. Do we lose our individuality if we're not limited by physical bodies?
That's a great question, and one that Vikolov doesn't shy away from. He challenges us to think about how identity and relationships would function in a world where physical limitations no longer apply.
It's definitely a lot to consider. But before we go any further down that rabbit hole, I think we should take a break and let our listeners digest all this amazing information.
Sounds good. There's definitely a lot to process. Welcome back. We were talking about some really mind-bending concepts like the universe being a giant computer and humans potentially evolving into infomorphs.
Right, and it's a lot to take in, but it's also pretty exciting. I mean, if we entertain these ideas, where does that leave us? What does it all mean for humanity and our future?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. Vikolov argues that we're standing on the precipice of a profound transformation. As we continue to kind of merge with technology, he believes we will transcend our current biological limitations and evolve into something entirely new.
He uses the term biological bottleneck to describe the human body, right? Like implying that we need to move beyond it to reach our full potential.
Exactly. And he envisions a future where we exist as infomorphs, unbound by these physical bodies, free to explore the vastness of what he calls inner space.
Inner space, okay.
Yeah, and maybe even other dimensions.
Okay, so that sounds pretty amazing, but a little daunting. What happens to our individual identities in that kind of future? Do we lose our sense of self?
Well, Vikolov suggests that identity actually becomes much more fluid and multifaceted. Instead of being confined to a single body and timeline, imagine experiencing multiple realities simultaneously, each with its own unique perspective and identity.
So like having multiple avatars in a massive online game.
That's a great way to visualize it. And it raises all sorts of questions about relationships, morality, even the nature of reality itself. I mean, if we're no longer limited to a single linear experience, what does that mean for our understanding of right and wrong, purpose, and meaning?
Yeah, it's almost like the rules of the game change completely.
Exactly. And that's what makes Vikolov's work so thought-provoking. You know, he's not just describing a technological future, he's really exploring the philosophical and spiritual implications of these advancements.
Yeah, and he uses the term cybertheism to describe a kind of pantheistic worldview, where the universe itself is a conscious entity. What does that mean exactly?
It's the idea that consciousness is woven into the fabric of reality itself. Vikolov actually sees technology as a tool for spiritual evolution, a way to reconnect with the divine spark that exists within all of us.
Okay, I have to admit, my brain is starting to hurt a little. But I'm also incredibly intrigued. It's like all these science fiction concepts are suddenly becoming plausible, even probable.
I know. That's the beauty of Vikolov's work. He's not afraid to kind of push the boundaries of what we consider possible. He really challenges us to expand our thinking, embrace the unknown, and consider that the universe might be far stranger and more wondrous than we ever imagined.
He talks a lot about the importance of embracing uncertainty and letting go of rigid belief systems, too.
Absolutely. He argues that while the scientific method is incredibly valuable, it has its limitations. We need to acknowledge that some aspects of reality might be beyond our current ability to measure or quantify.
So he's essentially challenging the materialistic worldview that's dominated scientific thought for centuries.
He is. He suggests that consciousness might be the fundamental building block of reality, not matter.
Wow, so that's a radical shift in perspective. And it leads to some pretty wild implications, right? I mean, if consciousness is primary, then maybe we're not just observing reality, but actively participating in its creation.
Right. It's like, are our thoughts, beliefs, intentions all shaping the world around us?
Okay. But if that's true, what about free will? Are we truly making choices, or are we just playing out a predetermined script?
Now, that's a question that philosophers have been debating for millennia. And Vikolov doesn't shy away from the complexity of it. He proposes a model where both determinism and free will play a role. He suggests that we exist within a vast web of interconnected possibilities, a universal causal diamond, as he calls it. And our choices kind of influence which path we take within this network.
So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure novel on a cosmic scale.
Exactly. Our choices matter, but they're also influenced by a complex interplay of factors beyond our individual control.
It's a lot to wrap our heads around, but it's also incredibly liberating in a way.
It is. It frees us from the limitations of a purely materialistic worldview and opens up this universe of possibilities.
You know, it reminds me of that famous quote from Arthur C. Clarke: "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic."
Oh, that's so true. As we continue to advance technologically, we're essentially rewriting the rules of reality. Who knows what wonders and challenges await us in the future?
Well, one thing's for sure, it's going to be one heck of a ride. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, let's bring things back down to earth for a moment.
Good idea. It's important to ground these concepts in our current reality.
Right, so let's talk about some of the practical implications of Vikolov's ideas. How might these concepts shape our lives in the coming years and decades?
That's a question that deserves its own deep dive. But I think it's safe to say that we're on the verge of a technological revolution unlike anything we've ever seen before. You know, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, nanotechnology, these fields are advancing at an exponential rate, and they're going to have a profound impact on every aspect of our lives.
We're already seeing the early stages of this transformation, right?
Yeah.
Think about how much our lives have changed in just the past few decades, thanks to the internet and smartphones.
And that's just the beginning. As these technologies continue to evolve, they're going to blur the lines between the physical and digital worlds. We're going to see this convergence of biology and technology, creating new forms of life and intelligence unlike anything we can currently imagine.
It's both exciting and a little terrifying, to be honest.
It is. It's like standing on the edge of a vast, uncharted territory. We don't know what we'll find, but we know it's going to be transformative.
We're going to need a whole new set of maps and compasses to navigate this new world.
Absolutely. And a willingness to embrace the unknown, challenge our assumptions, and adapt to this rapidly changing reality.
You know, one thing that really stuck with me from Vikolov's book is his emphasis on the interconnectedness of everything. He argues that we're all part of this vast cosmic web of consciousness.
Right, and that our actions, thoughts, and intentions have ripple effects that extend far beyond our individual selves.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not isolated beings, but integral parts of a much larger whole.
Exactly, and that we have a responsibility to act in ways that benefit not just ourselves, but the entire web of life.
So it's not just about technological advancement, but also about moral and spiritual evolution.
Exactly. Vikolov argues that technology is a double-edged sword. It can be used for great good or great harm. It's up to us to choose wisely.
It's a heavy responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity. Speaking of opportunities, remember we were talking about the Fermi paradox earlier? The apparent lack of other intelligent life in the universe.
Right. And Vikolov has a fascinating perspective on that as well.
Yeah, he suggests that we might be looking in the wrong places, or rather, the wrong dimensions.
Yeah, he proposes that advanced civilizations might have already transcended their physical forms and migrated to higher dimensional realms, beyond our current ability to perceive.
So it's not that they're not out there, it's that we're not equipped to see them yet.
Exactly. He compares it to trying to see bacteria with the naked eye. You need a microscope to perceive them, just like we might need to evolve our consciousness to perceive these higher dimensional beings.
It's a mind-blowing concept, but it also makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of that idea, like if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Maybe there are all sorts of things happening around us that we're just not equipped to perceive yet.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? It challenges us to acknowledge the limits of our current understanding and to remain open to the possibility that there's so much more to reality than we currently grasp.
So how do these concepts of theogenesis, the scintellect, and the omega point inform our day-to-day choices? How do we apply these mind-blowing ideas to our everyday lives?
It's a great question. Yeah, it's easy to get lost in these grand cosmic ideas, but how do we actually bring them down to earth and integrate them into our lives?
Right, it's like, how do we apply this stuff?
I think the key takeaway is this sense of interconnectedness that Vikolov emphasizes. You know, it's not just about our individual journeys, but about recognizing that we're all part of something much larger, a vast web of consciousness that's constantly evolving.
So instead of just focusing on our own personal growth, we should also be thinking about how our actions contribute to the evolution of the collective.
Exactly. It's a shift from a purely individualistic perspective to one that recognizes our interconnectedness with all beings. Every action we take, every thought we have, every choice we make sends ripples through this web of consciousness.
It's like that butterfly effect idea that
Yeah.
even small actions can have far-reaching consequences.
Precisely. And if consciousness is indeed fundamental, as Vikolov suggests, then our thoughts and intentions have a real impact on the world around us. It's a huge responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity.
So how do we practically apply this in our daily lives? Does it mean we need to meditate for hours every day or become full-blown ascetics?
It doesn't have to be that extreme. I think it starts with simple things like being mindful of our thoughts, words, and actions. How are we impacting the people around us? Are we contributing to a more harmonious and compassionate world?
So it's about cultivating a sense of awareness, both of ourselves and our interconnectedness with everything around us.
Exactly. And from that awareness, we can start making choices that align with a more expansive vision of reality, a vision that includes not just ourselves, but all of humanity and even beyond.
Speaking of beyond, let's revisit that concept of advanced civilizations potentially existing in higher dimensions. It's such a mind-boggling idea.
It is, and it's one that Vikolov keeps returning to throughout his work. He suggests that these civilizations have essentially graduated to a whole new level of existence, operating on principles we can barely grasp.
It's almost like they've transcended the limitations of physical reality as we know it. They're playing a different game with a different set of rules.
Exactly. He even argues that our current scientific models might be too limited to detect these higher dimensional realities, let alone understand them. Imagine trying to explain the internet to someone who has only ever used a rotary phone.
Okay, I'm starting to get a sense of the scale we're talking about here. So we're imagining beings that have potentially mastered things like quantum computing, energy manipulation, maybe even consciousness itself.
It's mind-boggling to even contemplate. But Vikolov presents it as a very real possibility, even a likely outcome of our own technological and evolutionary trajectory. He suggests that as we approach this intellect, as we merge with technology and expand our consciousness, we'll inevitably tap into these higher dimensions ourselves.
So it's not just about exploring outer space with rockets and spaceships. It's about expanding our inner space, our understanding of consciousness, and the very fabric of reality.
That's a great way to put it. And this brings us full circle to the idea of theogenesis, of becoming godlike beings. It's not about developing supernatural powers or ruling over others. It's about realizing our full potential as conscious creative beings capable of shaping reality itself.
It's like we're all latent gods waiting to awaken to our true nature.
That's a powerful image. And it connects back to that core idea of information being the fundamental building block of reality. If that's true, then we're not just passive recipients of information, we're active participants in its creation.
So every thought, every intention, every action contributes to the ongoing evolution of the universe.
Exactly. It's a profound responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity. It means we have the power to shape our own reality and to contribute to the emergence of something truly extraordinary.
I love how Vikolov doesn't shy away from these big existential questions. He challenges us to rethink everything we thought we knew about ourselves, the universe, and our place within it all.
And he does it with a sense of optimism and wonder, a belief that we're capable of incredible things if we dare to dream big and embrace the unknown.
That's definitely a message that resonates deeply with me. I think it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and lose sight of the bigger picture. But these ideas remind us that we're part of something much grander and that our choices truly matter.
Well said. And remember, this is just a glimpse into Vikolov's work. His book is full of fascinating ideas that deserve further exploration. We encourage all our listeners to dive into theogenesis and see where it takes them.
Who knows what insights and revelations await? And as we continue to explore these mind-blowing concepts, it's important to remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Absolutely.
So let's embrace the journey of evolution with open hearts and open minds, always remembering that we're not just shaping our own future, but the future of consciousness itself.
Beautifully said.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into theogenesis. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep evolving.
Extadelic Media.